The lights flash in all directions, the smoke fills the air, we lift our hands and dance, the music fills our senses, masses of people getting lost in essential sensations. We're following your will, God. We are here to worship you. That's what all the effects are for. The lights, the stage, the smoke, all for you. Jesus, you are the centre. Among all of this we've created, you are the centre. That's what we tell ourselves anyway. Hi, my name is Raquel and I'm here to explore the idea of church. Before getting into details, I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page, in the same place, with the same goal. The rest of this is just information that can either be taken or left. That is, we are here for God, for His will to be done, not ours. Okay, so back to church. Here's a little bit of history to get an idea what it looked like biblically. In Exodus 12, it explains many torturous decades of slavery of the Israelites to the Egyptians and warnings from Moses. God sent 10 plagues to destroy and inflict pain on all the people of Egypt, as well as their livestock and crops. The last plague was the death of the firstborn of all families. However, if blood was sacrificed of a sacrifice lamb was put around the doorframe, the angel of death would go or pass over these houses and would not kill the firstborn of the home. This context helps us to understand what was going on at the Last Supper. It was not an incidental meal, it was a custom and a meeting together to remember what God had did for Israel, for setting them free from Egypt. Jesus is what we refer to as the Last Supper or Last Passover, was establishing a new covenant with his disciples, his people. This is what Jesus meant by "do this in remembrance of me." He said this after breaking the bread and drinking the cup. This changed the Jewish custom of the meal of Passover to the meal of celebration of Christ's death and resurrection. Paul in 1 Corinthians is speaking to the church of Corinth in an attempt to correct their immoral behaviour. It mentions what Jesus says, "For whenever you eat this bread and drink this cup, you proclaim the Lord's death until he comes." This gives us an indication that this should be the main focus of the church. The proclamation of Jesus' death was an instruction he gave up until his return. It is proclaimed in churches today. I mean, sometimes we remember if that's a message of the week, or if that's a series the church is going through, or if that's a season we're in. Looking at this though, as something Jesus asked us to do, to remember him, I am personally convicted to do more than I already am. Paul specifically addresses this matter in the church of Corinth and disappointed in the fact that they come together as a church, the Greek word being ecclesia, community or assembly of believers, and do not effectively carry out the intentional practice of the Lord's Supper that Jesus had instructed. If you go on to read the rest of this letter, Paul is so frustrated that the Corinthian church was abusing the Lord's Supper, in a sense that some people were coming early, getting drunk on all the wine that was there, while other people going hungry and missing out on all the food. That in itself indicates there was so much food, including bread and wine, for the communal design of church. I wonder if it is too risky to compare the church today to the church of Corinth. Sure, we don't splurge on food and wine, but that's because there isn't any in today's services. But for example, do we indulge in the message fed to us by the preacher up the front? Unfortunately, it can be debated that the way God intended church to be, it is rarely seen today in the modern church. I see the lights, the stage, the rows of chairs set up for the spectating audience, but not a communal, homely gathering where meals where we can proclaim the glory of the Lord's death until he returns. I've personally been convicted of this. I was at a church conference this year. I won't go into details where or when, but there were many people in a massive stadium. The conference went on for a week and each day started and ended with worship on a massive stage. Besides the lyrics and the songs, I'm sure there wasn't much difference between a concert and this conference. The floor lit up and lights crossed over us as the audience. Lights flashed in different colours in a nightclub rave fashion. The music became deafening at times and screens hanging from the ceiling appeared to be floating rings, which displayed the worship leader or pastor singing or preaching at the time. I couldn't help but question what was around me. The catchy music had people jumping and pumping their hands upward. Was that worship? Because biblically in singing, that is singing and dancing, but I felt it was a hype-infected reaction as to what was going on and what was presented to us. This is one of the motivational factors as to why I wanted to talk about God's intended church, more as a topic that could possibly cause us to self-evaluate our motives in our hearts and in response to His will, not ours. Going back to the original goal, we all want God's will to be done and in and through our lives. I think most of us understand that involves sacrifice. I wonder though if we blur the lines a little bit when it comes to church. I wonder if we took the lights, the stage, the smoke and all the things that appeal to our flesh away, would we still come together as ecclesia, as a family, as an assembly of believers? If we came together in homes, broke the bread, remembered Him and proclaimed His death, would that be too boring? Or do we need the structure we've made, being biblical or not? It is interesting to look at the information, that see where the church has originated to where we are now. However, looking at this information is to not judge any form or practice of church. I know it's just a reality that in history we've taken God's word to suit our will rather than submit ourselves to His. Thank you.